It was a calm, sunny afternoon at the Magnolia Boutique Hotel, a hidden gem known for its personal touch, exquisite service, and charming atmosphere. Guests strolled through the lobby, sipping coffee from the hotel cafe, while the staff quietly ensured everything ran smoothly. The hotel owner, Sophia, was reviewing the day's bookings in her office when a sudden commotion outside caught her attention. Through the glass doors, she noticed a sleek black SUV pull up. Out stepped a tall, imposing man, wearing dark sunglasses, a leather jacket, and an expression that suggested he expected the world to bend to his will. Sophia's heart skipped a beat. It wasn't just any celebrity, it was Steven Seagal. He walked directly toward the front desk, exuding confidence, his presence impossible to ignore. The staff froze for a moment, unsure how to greet him. One junior receptionist fumbled with the check-in process, nervously handing him a registration form. Seagal barely glanced at it. "I don't need this," he said in a low, commanding tone. "I want a suite with the best view, now." Sophia stepped forward, intending to personally handle the situation. But before she could speak, one of the staff whispered hurriedly, "Just let him talk. He's Steven Seagal." Sophia took a deep breath. She had handled VIP guests before, but something felt different. There was an edge to his demeanor, impatience, entitlement, and a hint of arrogance that made the staff uneasy. "Welcome to Magnolia Boutique," Sophia said, her voice calm but firm. "We'll get you settled in shortly." Seagal's eyes scanned the lobby, stopping at the concierge. "No delays. I want everything perfect, and I don't like waiting." The staff exchanged worried glances. Some guests were now watching, sensing the tension building. A few discreetly pulled out their phones, sensing that this unusual encounter might be worth recording. Sophia, maintaining her composure, gestured toward a nearby lounge. "Please have a seat. I'll personally ensure your suite is ready immediately." He nodded slightly but didn't sit. Something in the way he stood suggested that the real challenge had just begun. Sophia had a sinking feeling this wasn't going to be a simple check-in. And then, with a slight smirk and a dismissive tone, he made a request that made everyone in the lobby stop in shock. What Sophia did next left everyone speechless, and it would change the course of the afternoon forever. "You won't believe what happened in the next 9 minutes." Sophia excused herself from the office and approached the lobby, carefully observing the interaction between Steven Seagal and her staff. At first, she hoped it was just a simple misunderstanding. Maybe he was tired from travel, or perhaps he had high expectations, as many VIP guests do. But the moment she got closer, it became clear this was far from ordinary. Seagal's voice, low and commanding, filled the lobby. "This isn't acceptable," he said, glancing around impatiently. "I've stayed in hundreds of hotels, and no one treats me like this." The junior receptionist's hands shook as she tried to explain that the best suites were being prepared, but Seagal interrupted her mid-sentence. "I don't want excuses. I want results. Now." Guests in the lobby started whispering, some snapping discreet photos with their phones. A few had the sense that this was more than just a demanding celebrity. The tension in the room was palpable. Sophia kept a calm expression, but internally, her patience was thinning. "Sir," Sophia said firmly, stepping closer, "I understand your request, and we will provide everything you need. But I also expect courtesy and respect toward my staff. They are doing their best to accommodate you." Seagal's brow furrowed. He looked at her as if sizing up a worthy opponent. "And who are you to tell me what I should do? I've been everywhere, done everything. I don't answer to anyone." At that moment, a few staff members exchanged uneasy glances. The tension escalated. Sophia noticed that some of them were beginning to fear confrontation, their respect for protocol clashing with the natural instinct to avoid conflict with a high-profile guest. Despite the stress, Sophia's tone never wavered. She stayed calm, projecting authority and dignity, silently communicating that no amount of fame could excuse poor behavior. Seagal, seemingly used to people bending to his will, appeared irritated that she was not intimidated. A guest sitting nearby pulled out their phone and quietly whispered, "This is crazy. The hotel owner is actually confronting Steven Seagal." Seagal snapped his fingers impatiently. "I've waited long enough. Move faster." Sophia held his gaze. "Patience and respect are not optional, Mr. Seagal. They are the foundation of how we run this hotel. I need you to understand that before we continue." Today, The staff started breathing a little easier, encouraged by Sophia's courage. The lobby atmosphere shifted from fear to tense anticipation. Everyone could feel the standoff. A legendary action star versus a determined hotel owner who refused to bow to intimidation. At this point, it became clear to the onlookers that this was not just a simple check-in. Something dramatic was about to unfold. What would you do if a famous celebrity treated your workplace this way? Comment below and tell me which country or city you're watching this from. I love seeing where our viewers are tuning in from. 9 minutes had passed since Seagal first walked into the lobby. The clock ticked slowly, each second amplifying the tension. Sophia knew she had to make a decision, and whatever happened next would leave a lasting impression on everyone present. Guests were recording, some whispering excitedly, "This is going to go viral." The staff, initially frozen with fear, now looked to Sophia for guidance. The once intimidating celebrity seemed unaware that the power dynamics had shifted. The calm confidence of the hotel owner was quietly taking control of the room. And then, with a decisive step forward, Sophia prepared to confront him directly, fully aware that the next moments would determine the rest of the afternoon and potentially change how her staff, guests, and even Steven Seagal himself perceived respect and authority. What she did next shocked everyone, and it would teach a legendary movie star a lesson he would never forget. Sophia took a slow, deliberate breath as she stepped fully into the lobby. Every eye turned toward her staff, guests, even Steven Seagal himself. The atmosphere was thick with tension. Like the calm before a storm, she could feel the energy shift in the room. Where fear and uncertainty had ruled for the past 9 minutes, confidence now started to take over. Seagal's dark sunglasses concealed his expression, but the subtle tightening of his jaw told Sophia that he noticed the shift immediately. No one had dared speak to him like this before. Not with calm authority, not without trembling or flattery. "I'm going to be very clear," Sophia began, her voice calm yet commanding, echoing slightly across the lobby. "This hotel operates with respect and professionalism. Every guest is important, but so are the people who make this hotel run my staff. I will not tolerate behavior that undermines them, no matter who you are." The words landed like a jolt in the room. Staff began to relax slightly, reassured that their leader had their back. Guests stopped whispering to each other and turned their attention fully to the unfolding drama. Seagal leaned back slightly, a hint of disbelief in the tilt of his head. "You think you can tell me how to act?" he said, his voice low but sharp. "I've been everywhere, worked with the best, done things most people couldn't even imagine. You have no idea who you're talking to." Sophia's eyes didn't waver. "I know exactly who you are," she replied. "A celebrity, a famous actor, and that doesn't give you the right to treat people disrespectfully. No one in this lobby, not my staff, not my guests, and not even you deserves to be treated that way." 2. For a moment, the room went silent. You could almost hear the clock ticking. Seagal seemed to be searching for an angle, a way to regain control, but Sophia wasn't flinching. You're lucky," he said finally, his voice tinged with irritation, "that I even came here voluntarily. Most people would just give in. I'm not here to argue with you about luck or fame," Sophia said evenly, her tone razor-sharp. "I'm here to ensure respect and accountability. If you can't follow our rules, you're free to leave right now." The junior receptionist swallowed hard, nervously glancing at the exit. Some staff shifted uneasily, fearing the confrontation would escalate further. But Sophia's calm authority gave them courage. They began to see that professionalism and composure could outweigh even the most intimidating personalities. Seagal's mouth opened, then closed, like he was searching for words. Guests who had been quietly recording began whispering excitedly to each other. "She's actually telling him off. Wow, I can't believe she's doing this. Sophia continued, her gaze unwavering. "In this hotel, we value people, integrity, and professionalism over status, wealth, or fame. If you cannot respect these principles, you do not belong here." The tension in Seagal's posture was palpable, the tilt of his head, the tightening of his fists. Even the slight shift of weight from one foot to another, everything suggested he was accustomed to being obeyed without question. But Sophia's composure was breaking through his usual dominance. Guests were now completely silent, watching this historic moment unfold. Some whispered into their phones, "This is insane," the hotel owner just confronted Steven Seagal. Seagal stepped closer, lowering his voice, trying to assert control. "You don't understand. I've spent my life doing things people can't even imagine. You think I take advice from someone like you? I don't care what you've done in your life," Sophia replied firmly. "What matters is how you act in this lobby, in this hotel, at this moment. And right now, you are disrespecting people. That ends here." A few brave staff members nodded subtly to each other. Guests were now recording every word, capturing the showdown that felt more like a movie than real life. The dynamic in the room had shifted completely. Where Seagal had been the center of power, he now felt the weight of Sophia's calm, unwavering authority. Seagal's voice rose slightly. "You're insane if you think I'm going to let you." "Enough," Sophia interrupted sharply. "I've given you the chance to behave. You've chosen otherwise. Please leave my hotel immediately." The room fell completely silent. Staff and guests alike held their breath, waiting to see if he would comply or escalate further. After a tense pause, Seagal finally looked around the room, realized he was no longer in control, and muttered under his breath, "Fine." He stormed toward the exit, his entourage scrambling to follow. The entire lobby watched, stunned at how quickly the tables had turned. A once intimidating celebrity had been shown that decorum and respect were not negotiable. What would you do if a famous celebrity treated your workplace this way? Comment below, would you have stayed silent or stepped up like Sophia did? As the doors closed behind Seagal, the tension in the room began to dissipate. Staff let out quiet sighs of relief. Guests clapped discreetly, still recording the unbelievable scene. Sophia turned to her team, smiling gently. "You handled that well," she said. "Always remember, no one, no matter how famous, is above respect and professionalism." For those watching, it was a lesson in courage, leadership, and integrity. The confrontation had lasted just a few minutes, but its impact would resonate long after Seagal left the building. And in the back of her mind, Sophia already knew what needed to happen next, a decision that would shock the staff even more than the confrontation itself. 9 minutes later, she made a decision that no one in the hotel would ever forget. The doors clicked shut behind Steven Seagal and his entourage, leaving a stunned silence in the Magnolia Boutique Hotel lobby. Guests and staff alike were frozen, still processing what had just happened. For the first time, the air felt lighter but only slightly. Sophia knew that while one battle had been won, the real challenge was just beginning. Her staff, initially paralyzed with fear, now gathered near the front desk. They whispered nervously among themselves, glancing at Sophia for guidance. The junior receptionist, whose hands had trembled while trying to check Seagal in, finally looked up. "Miss Sophia, did that really just happen?" "Yes," Sophia said softly, meeting her gaze. "And it's important you understand why I acted the way I did." Some staff members exchanged uneasy glances. Their reactions were a mixture of awe and guilt. Awe, because no one had expected their boss to confront a Hollywood action star with such confidence. Guilt, because several had inadvertently enabled Seagal's behavior, flustered and compliant instead of standing firm. Sophia walked slowly across the lobby, her heels clicking softly against the polished floor. "This hotel stands for respect, professionalism, and integrity," she explained. "Every one of you has a responsibility to uphold those standards. Today, you had a choice to follow protocol and maintain professionalism, or to let fear and celebrity influence your actions. Unfortunately, some of you chose the easier path, and that is not acceptable." A hush fell over the staff. Their eyes widened as they realized she wasn't just scolding them, she was laying down a challenge. One by one, they began to feel the weight of their decisions. Guests, who had been watching discreetly from the seating area, whispered excitedly. Some were still recording the scene, recognizing that this was no ordinary hotel interaction. It was a lesson in leadership. Sophia turned to the staff member who had fumbled with Seagal's check-in. "You thought it would be easier to let him push you around, didn't you?" she asked gently, but firmly. The receptionist swallowed and nodded. I didn't know what to do. He's Steven Seagal." "I understand," Sophia replied, "but respect is not optional. It doesn't matter who walks through that door, celebrity, politician, or guest. What matters is how we conduct ourselves. We create the experience here, and we do it with professionalism, dignity, and courage. Some staff members began to nod slowly, understanding the lesson. But Sophia noticed a few lingering hesitation, the ones who had actively enabled Seagal's arrogance by flinching, stepping aside, or ignoring protocol. Their faces betrayed the realization that they had let fear override responsibility. Sophia's voice grew more deliberate. This is the turning point. Every organization has moments like this, moments where leadership is tested and where people are revealed for who they truly are, under pressure. Today, we saw who stood for our values and who didn't. At that moment, the front desk phone rang. Sophia answered it calmly, giving brief instructions to a staff member handling another request. Even in the middle of a confrontation, she maintained composure. The contrast between her professionalism and the staff's nervousness was striking. The lesson had never been clearer. Meanwhile, guests whispered among themselves. One remarked, "She didn't just stand up to Steven Seagal, she taught her entire staff a lesson in leadership." Another quietly filmed, narrating, "This is incredible. The owner of this boutique hotel just showed everyone how to command respect." The staff began to share their thoughts quietly. "I didn't realize we were letting him intimidate us," one said. "I was just scared." "You were scared," Sophia acknowledged, "and that's natural. But fear is temporary. Respect and integrity are permanent. It's easy to bend to power or fame. The harder, braver choice is to uphold your principles." Her words resonated deeply. Staff members straightened their posture, taking in the magnitude of what had just occurred. They began to understand that the lesson wasn't about defying Seagal personally, it was about honoring their own values and responsibilities. But as Sophia scanned the room, she felt a familiar sinking feeling. Some staff members had crossed a line that couldn't simply be ignored. She realized that their behavior, not entirely malicious, but negligent, had undermined the standards of the hotel. If left unaddressed, it would encourage future incidents. Her mind raced. How could she hold people accountable without destroying morale? How could she send a message that actions had consequences, while still preserving the loyalty of the rest of her team? Sophia took a deep breath and made a decision. This was the moment that would define her leadership, her team, and the reputation of the hotel. The confrontation with Seagal had revealed more than just a celebrity's behavior, it had revealed the character of her staff under pressure. And now, she knew what she had to do. What Sophia did next stunned everyone and changed the way her staff, and even Steven Seagal, would see authority forever. Sophia stood in the center of the Magnolia Boutique Hotel lobby, the echoes of Steven Seagal's footsteps still lingering in the polished floors. For a brief moment, silence reigned, broken only by the low hum of the air conditioning and the faint murmur of the guests. Her staff, still processing what had just occurred, glanced nervously at one another. She took a slow breath, letting the weight of responsibility settle on her shoulders. This wasn't just about a difficult celebrity anymore. This was about leadership, accountability, and the standards she had promised to uphold when she first opened the hotel. "You all have seen what happened," she began, her voice steady and calm, yet imbued with authority. "You've seen how one person's behavior can disrupt the entire operation. You've seen fear, hesitation, and uncertainty." She paused, scanning each staff member's face. Their eyes were wide, some looking down at the floor, others at her expectantly, silently asking, "What will she do next?" "And you've also seen courage. Some of you stood tall. Some of you remained composed even under pressure," Sophia continued. "But some of you allowed fear to dictate your actions. That is unacceptable." A few staff members shifted uncomfortably in their shoes. Sophia knew exactly who had faltered. Their indecision and willingness to defer to Seagal's arrogance had compromised the integrity of the hotel's service. They needed to learn that respect and professionalism were not optional, they were non-negotiable. "I make this very clear," she said, her voice rising slightly, cutting through the tension like a knife. "We are a team. We operate on trust, respect, and accountability. Anyone who fails to uphold these values regardless of intent cannot be part of this team." Murmurs rippled through the staff. Some gasped, others whispered, "Is she really going to do it?" The guests, sensing another dramatic turn, began filming quietly, eyes glued to the unfolding scene. This was more than a confrontation, this was a lesson in leadership being delivered in real time. Sophia's gaze landed on the junior receptionist who had fumbled with Seagal's check-in. Your actions or inactions directly enable disrespect in this lobby. You will be held accountable. The receptionist's face paled. I didn't mean to. She stammered. It doesn't matter what you meant. Sophia interrupted firmly. It matters what you did. And that's the standard we must enforce. Every day, for every guest, every team member, and every interaction. She paused, letting the weight of her words sink in. The staff could feel the tension coiling tighter in the air, the moment pregnant with consequence. Sophia's authority, calm yet unwavering, had transformed the lobby from a place of fear into a stage of accountability. Effective immediately, Sophia declared, any staff member who knowingly enables or fails to prevent inappropriate behavior toward guests or colleagues will no longer be part of this hotel. Professionalism is not negotiable. Respect is not optional. Her words hung in the air. Some staff began to weep quietly, realizing that their mistakes had real consequences. Others straightened up, silently grateful that Sophia's decision was decisive, fair, but uncompromising. Guests in the lobby whispered among themselves. One captured the moment on camera, narrating, "The hotel owner just fired the entire staff who didn't stand up. I can't believe this. This is insane." Another murmured, "She didn't just confront a movie star. She changed everything for her team in 9 minutes." Sophia turned to her remaining staff who had proven themselves. For those who acted with integrity, who supported one another, and who followed protocol, you have my trust, my respect, and my guidance. You are the backbone of this hotel. Even Seagal, outside the lobby by now, would later recall the scene as a shock to his ego. He had walked in expecting to be obeyed without question, to have his fame command compliance. Instead, he had been met with unwavering authority and clarity, and had been shown that celebrity status is never a substitute for respect. At that moment, Sophia felt a surge of calm determination. The confrontation had revealed more than just her staff's weaknesses. It had revealed the true values of her team and the standards she would never compromise. She knew that leadership wasn't about intimidation or fear. It was about integrity, accountability, and the courage to enforce principles, even when it's difficult. If you've ever had to make a tough decision at work or confront someone in authority, type courage in the comments. Would you have the strength to do what Sophia did? By the end of the day, the staff who remained had gained more than just employment. They had gained a first-hand lesson in leadership, ethics, and responsibility. Guests who witnessed the events would later recall them as one of the most unusual and inspiring experiences at a hotel, an unexpected drama with a profound lesson. Sophia looked around the lobby, letting the silence settle. The confrontation with Seagal was over. The lesson had been delivered, and her team had been reshaped in the process. She knew that the next steps would continue to test them, but this pivotal moment had already defined the character of the hotel and the people who ran it. And just 9 minutes after Seagal walked in, the ripple effect of her decision would shock everyone, guests, staff, and even the famous action star himself. The lobby was quiet now, but the atmosphere was heavy with realization. Guests lingered, whispering in small clusters, their phones still out, capturing every detail of what had just occurred. Sophia stood at the center, calm, composed, and resolute, her eyes scanning the room. The confrontation with Seagal had ended, but the consequences for her staff were just beginning. Sophia's voice carried across the lobby, clear and unwavering. Effective immediately, staff members who failed to uphold our standards during this incident will no longer be employed here. A few staff members gasped audibly. Some faces paled, others lowered their eyes in shame. It was a shock the first time many of them had been held accountable for such a serious lapse in professionalism. Sophia had always led with encouragement and mentorship, but today, she had drawn a line in the sand. The remaining employees, those who had acted with integrity and courage, stood quietly, their expressions a mix of relief and newfound respect. They had witnessed firsthand what it meant to uphold principles under pressure. Guests, still whispering, began to murmur louder, some clapping softly in approval. A few brave souls cheered. Cameras continued rolling. The energy in the room had shifted dramatically where fear had dominated before. Admiration now reigned. Sophia had not only defended her team's values but also demonstrated the power of decisive leadership. Word of the confrontation had already begun spreading online. A guest live streaming the event narrated breathlessly. "You guys, you won't believe this. The hotel owner just confronted Steven Seagal and fired the staff who didn't do their jobs. I've never seen anything like it." Within minutes, the clip began circulating on social media platforms, sparking a storm of reactions from viewers worldwide. Meanwhile, Sophia moved quietly among the remaining staff. "This is not personal," she said softly. "It's about standards, integrity, and accountability. You have a responsibility to your guests, to your team, and to yourself. Never forget that." One employee, teary-eyed, whispered, "I understand now. I didn't realize how much our actions or inactions could impact the entire hotel." "Exactly," Sophia replied gently. "Every decision, every interaction, matters. Today, you learned that the hard way. Let it guide you from now on." Outside, Seagal's car idled at the curb, and although he had already left, the story had followed him online within minutes. Fans, journalists, and curious onlookers began posting the viral clip, praising Sophia for her courage and leadership. Comments poured in, "Wow, the hotel owner is fearless. This is how you handle entitled behavior. Leadership goals right here." The ripple effect was immediate. News outlets picked up the story, highlighting the unusual but inspiring incident. Sophia's decision had not only upheld her hotel's standards but had also sparked a global conversation about accountability, professionalism, and respect, proving that fame and status do not exempt anyone from behaving appropriately. Back in the hotel, Sophia addressed her remaining staff once more. "Remember," she said, "today was a lesson. Not just for you, not just for the guests, and certainly not just for Mr. Seagal. It's a lesson for anyone who thinks intimidation or fame allows them to bypass respect. We lead with courage, integrity, and accountability, always." Staff nodded, some wiping tears from their eyes, all of them visibly inspired. The experience had transformed them. Where fear had once dictated behavior, confidence and clarity now reigned. They had witnessed leadership in action, unshaken, decisive, and fair. Guests who had stayed to watch were still recording, sharing, and commenting. One whispered, "This will go viral, mark my words. The way she handled it, I've never seen anything like it." Another added, "This isn't just a hotel story, it's a lesson in life." The story's viral reach extended far beyond the hotel. Clips circulated worldwide, sparking discussions about workplace respect, the responsibilities of staff, and the ethics of celebrity entitlement. Sophia became a symbol of courage and integrity, a reminder that leadership is measured not by fear or intimidation, but by the principles one refuses to compromise. Have you ever witnessed someone take a bold stand like this? Type courage in the comments if you admire her bravery, and let us know where you're watching from. By the end of the day, the hotel's reputation had transformed. Sophia's decisive action had not only reinforced her team's commitment to excellence, but had also elevated the Magnolia Boutique Hotel as a symbol of professionalism, integrity, and fearless leadership. The viral story cemented a timeless lesson. Fame and power may intimidate, but respect, courage, and accountability always win in the end. And just hours after this dramatic showdown, the world was watching, sharing, commenting, and praising Sophia's leadership like never before. By the time the sun had begun to dip behind the skyline, the Magnolia Boutique Hotel was still buzzing with activity, but now it was a different kind of energy. The fear and tension of earlier had been replaced by admiration, pride, and excitement. Guests lingered in the lobby, whispering among themselves, showing each other clips of the confrontation with Steven Seagal that had already gone viral online. Sophia, standing near the front desk, watched quietly. Her staff were regrouping, some nervously, some with newfound confidence. She could see the weight of the day's events settling on them. They had been through an extraordinary experience, a test of professionalism, courage, and integrity under pressure, and they had survived it. More than that, they had grown from it. The social media response was immediate and overwhelming. Within hours, clips of Sophia confronting Seagal and subsequently holding her staff accountable had been shared across platforms, accumulating millions of views. Comments poured in from around the globe. "This is leadership at its finest." She didn't just stand up to a movie star, she taught an entire team a lesson in integrity. This woman deserves a medal for bravery and professionalism. Even mainstream news outlets picked up the story. Headlines screamed across websites and social feeds. Hotel owner confronts Steven Seagal, fires staff who failed to uphold standards. Fearless leadership. Magnolia Boutique Hotel owner shows how to handle entitled guests. The viral nature of the story didn't just elevate Sophia's personal reputation, it transformed the Magnolia Boutique Hotel itself. People began booking stays simply to experience the level of professionalism and leadership that had made the story famous. Guests wanted to see firsthand the hotel where respect and integrity were non-negotiable. Sophia gathered her staff later that evening in the staff lounge. The room was quiet, everyone attentive. She began, her voice calm but filled with quiet authority. Today was not just about one difficult guest. It was about what we stand for as a team. Every decision you make, every action you take, defines who we are. You've seen how quickly fear can compromise our standards, but you've also seen how courage, integrity, and accountability can transform a situation. Remember this feeling and carry it into everything you do. A junior staff member, teary-eyed, spoke up. I didn't realize how much one person's actions or inactions could impact everyone. I feel like I understand leadership now in a way I never did before. Sophia smiled. Exactly. Leadership is not about titles or fear. It's about responsibility, courage, and respect. And that lesson applies not just to our hotel, but to every workplace, every relationship, every moment in life where your integrity is tested. Even though Seagal had left the hotel hours earlier, the impact of the confrontation continued to resonate. Clips of the encounter were circulating in offices, homes, and social media feeds worldwide. People were sharing the story not just for entertainment, but for inspiration. Sophia's calm, decisive, and fair handling of the situation had become a model of leadership. If you believe no one, not even a celebrity, should be allowed to bully or intimidate others, type respect in the comments below. Where are you watching from? Let us know. Sophia also used the attention to reinforce the hotel's values. On the Magnolia Boutique Hotel's official social media accounts, she posted a message. True leadership is not measured by who you intimidate, but by the integrity you maintain and the respect you give. Fame does not excuse disrespect. Accountability is universal. The post went viral, garnering thousands of likes, shares, and comments. Fans and followers praised her for her bravery, wisdom, and composure. People around the world were inspired, seeing that standing up for what is right doesn't require aggression, only courage and principle. By the following week, the hotel's bookings had skyrocketed. Guests commented on the professionalism, attentiveness, and calm authority of the staff. Many cited the viral incident as a reason they wanted to stay, not for the celebrity drama, but for the culture of respect and integrity that Sophia had cultivated. Even internally, Sophia noticed a profound change in her team. Staff members were more confident, more attentive, and more committed to maintaining the standards that had made the hotel a success. They had seen firsthand how courage and professionalism could influence not only their guests but also the wider world. In the end, the story became more than just a viral moment. It became a symbol, a lesson in leadership, accountability, and integrity. Sophia had faced an intimidating figure, made difficult decisions, and transformed the entire experience into a teaching moment. Her actions demonstrated that respect, courage, and professionalism are powerful forces, ones that no celebrity, no matter how famous, could undermine. If you believe everyone deserves respect, no matter who they are, type respect in the comments and subscribe for more inspiring real-life stories. Remember, courage and integrity always make the difference. And so, the Magnolia Boutique Hotel became more than a place to stay. It became a symbol of integrity, a story of courage that spread across the world, a lesson in leadership that would be remembered long after the cameras were turned off and Seagal had left the building. The lobby, once a site of tension and fear, had become a stage for inspiration, and for those who had witnessed it, either in person or online, the lesson was clear. True power doesn't come from fame or force, it comes from standing firm in your values.